there are negative conversations being had about various topics, various political topics on college campuses and even in our political discourse in general, is because of the framework in which that conversation is had. That framework we've talked about is intersectionality to a certain extent. Intersectionality essentially encourages people to make assumptions about each other, whether it's assumptions based upon skin color, based upon financial status or lack thereof, based upon gender, etc. So in order to challenge the conversation or change the conversation, you have to challenge the framework. And the framework that challenges intersectionality is the theory of enchantment.
And somebody here has a website called theoryoфenchantment.com. What the hell's going on over there?
So a little bit of context. I was at the Wall Street Journal for a year. 2015, I was mentored by Bret Stephens. And part of my assignment was to develop a paper. And in this paper, I was essentially trying to figure out what the psychology of connection was. Why do people gravitate toward what they gravitate toward? And if I can figure out the psychology of connection or the science of connection, then can I use that science of connection to heal disconnection? And that is what ended up being the theory of enchantment. And the theory of enchantment drives or depends heavily upon pop culture, studying pop culture, because pop culture shows us what we gravitate toward. So I began to ask myself questions during the course of writing this research paper, like, why do we gravitate toward companies like Nike? What is it that's
you
so
love Nike.
Love it. Love Nike. But like for some people, Nike is a religion. Like it's like on that level. And like, why do we gravitate towards singer-songwriters and influencers like Beyonce? And people would say, well, it's Beyonce. It's very obvious, Chloe. It's Beyonce. But I'm like, no, it's not. It's not obvious. There's something happening there. And it turns out that all of these influencers and all these companies, etc., are doing one simple thing. They're creating content where their audience sees themselves and their potential reflected in the content. And that's how they're generating connection. So you wear that Nike shoe because you think to yourself, if I wear this Nike shoe, I'll be able to just do it, right? As the slogan goes. When Beyonce says, who run the world, girls, women see themselves and their potential reflected in that song, which is why they gravitate toward her. So how do we use that basic idea to bring together people who have been disconnected? So the theory of enchantment has three rules, three principles of trying to bring connection in previously polarized spaces. And this can be used in interpersonal conflict or conflicts of other nature. So the first rule is to remember that we are human beings and not political abstractions. Because the first thing that happens in these spaces is we abstract about each other. We think that we're talking to political objects or entities and not a full person. And what I will do in a presentation is I will point to a pop culture reference that illustrates this. And I usually point to Kendrick Lamar. Because Kendrick Lamar has a song called DNA. And he says in this song, I got power, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. And what he's doing when he says that is he is articulating and illustrating what it means to be a human being. We have all of these things within us. We have the capacity to do good, we have the capacity to destroy. We have the capacity to build up, right? And we have the capacity to tear down. And just as this impulse exists within the person who I disagree with, who I'm having a problem with, it also exists within me. Right? And realizing this is sort of the beginning, I think, for empathy and mutual understanding. So that's the first rule. Remember, we are human beings, not political abstractions, and as a corollary, we will not dehumanize or stereotype or objectify any of the human beings or any of the communities involved in this conflict, whatever that conflict is. The second principle is, if you want to criticize in order to uplift and empower, never to tear down, never to destroy. So if that person who believes in intersectionality is being very mean to me and aggressive to me, I could criticize him by cursing him out, right? And
you can do that. You can do that.
by speaking down to him, or I can criticize him in a way that makes it very clear that I actually believe in his potential, and I actually believe that he's better than the content or the rhetoric, the empty rhetoric that he's putting out. And by speaking in the manner that suggests that, I'm more likely to change him. So, a quick story. Maya Angelou told this story about how she was on set with Tupac at a movie set, and Tupac was in the corner somewhere cursing out this guy who he didn't like, and they were like about to get into a fight. And then Maya Angelou says, come here, let me talk to you. And he's Tupac, so he's like still mumbling under his breath. And then she says, come over here, let me talk to you. And then she tells him, don't you know that we are counting on you? Don't you know that you are the next generation and that we're looking toward you to pave the way for us? Don't you know that you have been loved and we're looking toward you as the next person to uphold us. And so the story goes that in that moment, Tupac starts crying because she had rooted her criticism in her fundamental belief in him, you know. And then the next day, he's sort of like kind of still being aggressive toward that guy, and then Maya passes, and he like straightens up, and he goes, "Good morning, Miss Angela," right? So he modifies his behavior in front of someone because she believes in him. So that's the second, and then the third and final principle is everything we do, we try to root in love and compassion, which sounds very like, you know, vague. But what it means is if someone is being aggressive towards you or mean towards you or whatever, you call that out as inappropriate. You say, you know, I don't know you from Adam. I don't know why you're prejudging me, which is the definition of prejudice, right? But what I'm not going to do is I'm not going to prejudge you, even though you have prejudged me. Instead, if you want, let's go to this coffee shop and let's actually talk about this topic X, topic Y, whatever we're having a disagreement over. Because what's happening in that moment is they're probably seeing you as a political abstraction, not as a full human being. And you have to rehumanize that space. And the purpose, by the way, is not to get that person to agree with every single viewpoint you have. The purpose of that is to bring back compassion and empathy, even in the midst of profound disagreement, which is something we are not doing so well here in America. So that's the theory of enchantment.
This has been a pleasure. Can you run for president or something?
No, absolutely not.
That would not work with any of those three pillars.
No, it would. I prefer pop culture to political culture.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm so glad we finally did this, and
Likewise.
we will do it again for sure.
Awesome.
And for more on Chloe, you can check out theoryofenchantment.com.